All right, so we got the Cobra Blackfin. The package is a little bit damaged. It got damaged during shipping. No big deal. But let's just get right down to it and open this up. All right, so inside we have a couple items. I believe this is the dongle that we're supposed to keep in our computer. This is the device itself. Ooh, it's got a nice transparent plastic on it. That's actually kind of neat. I like that. I can see inside. And then we got our USB cable for the device. And then right here we should have the card for the Vita. If I can get this tape on. Yep, that should be it. This tiny little thing. Get a good look of it. Alright, so I believe it needs a small SD card. Look, I have that. Alright, so let's move that out of the way. Let's get a nice, good look of all the devices and what they are. Dongle, card, cable. Alright, so I'm gonna set this up and well, let's get to using it. Alright, so the device is set up. It just uses a mini USB cable. Uh, the dongle is in my computer. Had to grab a micro USB or a micro SD card for the card emulator, and make sure you download the latest software. And as I got, I need a firmware upgrade. Sorry for the glare, but my lighting is absolutely awful. So make sure you get the latest software and install it properly and update the firmware. Alright, so just want to get a quick shot of how big they are in comparison to normal Vita games. So here's the card emulator. It's essentially just the same height, but flat, instead of having the little arc there. The underside is pretty much the same too. It's just, yeah, nothing overly amazing. It's exactly what you'd expect. Just trying to figure out if that hole is for something in particular, but I'm assuming I can just put like little string through there and have it hold on to something like kind of like a keychain. All right, so still taking a bit, but figured I'd show how it looks on the inside. So you have a couple card reading slots. The bottom, I'm assuming, is slot 0 or 1, whatever you want to call that. And then the following ones would be for your game cartridges. It's still updating, so I can't put it in, as I tried that and it cancels the firmware update, so that's unfortunate. At the time of recording this, the version they have up is version 1.12, so be sure to grab that version if you want to use this. Alright, so finally finished updating. Took a bit. I can't do anything while it updates or it cancels everything, so just be sure that you are patient with it, because that may end badly for you. Alright, so after a little bit of troubleshooting, I figured out what my issue is. Uh, this device does not like USB 3 ports. Be sure you plug it into something else. Alternatively, if it's the front panel USB ports, don't use those. Use the back panel if you're on a desktop. Laptop, you should be fine, so don't worry about it. But yeah, let's jump over to the software side and explain what's going on. Alright, so this is a finicky little device, but I think I got an understanding of how it works. So right now I have Gravity Rush in the top port. Turn off that. So right now it detects as an unknown game, which is perfectly fine. So what you're going to do is you're going to authenticate the card. So now it's going to be scanning for the device, which I have in my test kit right now, which is surprising to say the least. So just pop it in there. And we're going to turn it on as the instructions say you should. and it authenticated successfully. Now, what's special about that is I did not expect a test kit to be able to work with this. So that's interesting. So once it's authenticated, all you really have to do is decide, do you want to dump the card or do you want to not dump the card? So right now I'm going to dump the card to disk. Just select desktop and say yeah. And then it does what it needs to do. Now you can't see it in there, but there's a green light. There's a green light in there. And I like that because it has a red light, blue light, and green light. So that's neat, I suppose. Alright, so the card dump completed successfully. Took a little bit, transfers at about 10 megabytes a second. No worries. So the Gravity Rush card is dumped. It's gotten authenticated and everything. So now the question is, will it write to the emulator? And I assume the answer is yes. Let's take it out of here. It's also got a very tight grip. I don't believe I mentioned that, but this card is just a smidge thicker on all dimensions, and that kind of bugs me, but that's fine, I suppose. So we're going to put it in there, and we got a little LED showing that it's in. So on here, we're going to add a game, and where did I save that to? We have Gravity Rush. So let's add that. Unknown error. Wonderful. So let's tinker with that for a little bit. Alright, found the issue. It was in the file name. So when Gravity Rush dumped, it dumped with trademark in the file name, and that came out to some gibberish and special characters that can't be dealt with by the software. So when you dump the card to the disk, so you can write to, the emulator, be sure that you don't use any special characters. Just name it something simple for you or for everyone. It doesn't matter how you name it. Just don't use special characters. And that's what I've learned from this. The writing speed is a little slow. It's only about 3 megabytes per second. And depending on the size of the game, in this case 2 gigabytes, that could take a little bit. So I'll get back to you in a moment. Alright, so the game wrote to the card emulator successfully, and now we're going to move on to the next part of this, which should be booting up one of these games. So it is, it's in the Fat Vita with 3.6, and the card is detected now, which is wonderful. So at the bottom here we can say launch game, and I don't believe that did anything. What am I going to do? So I believe it's trying to launch it, but it won't be able to. I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I think that's the problem here. So it can't launch if it's 3.6. Alright, I think that's fair. So let's do another test. Let's try again with the slim one, or let's try with my PSTV and see if that does anything. Alright, so PSTV is not compatible. It does not work at all. I'm assuming that has to deal with how it handles the Bluetooth a little bit differently, since it can't seem to connect to the card no matter what the setup is. And I think we're all okay with that because, let's be honest, who has a PSTV anyway? Man, this takes quite a while, but I guess that's because we don't get to use USB 3.0, do we? Alright, so it took me a little bit, but realized you could put more than one game on the card, so that's pretty neat. So let's quickly show that. So I have it in the Slim right now. All right, so we got two. We got Senran Kagura Estival Versus, and we got Gravity Rush. So let's launch Estival Versus. All right, and as you can see here, my test kit is on 3.30, so I can't actually do anything about that. So it doesn't quite work for me for this one. For the fat system, let's go do that. Let's take this out. God, it's such a pain to get out. All right, so let's connect once more. Scanning for card. All right, not work. Let's try that again. I have to do it kind of quick. So let's try one more time. Did it go in? All right, so let's close the software and reopen it and try it one more time. Okay. So let's try connecting one more time. Alright, so as you can see, it's not working. I'm assuming that's because it's on version 3.6, which is the firmware that this does not work on. So let's find system info. Alright, so it works as far as it claims it should. The problem is just version 3.6 is the one that doesn't make it work. So my suggestion is if you're going to get this, make sure that you have a Vita, and I do mean Vita. Don't get the PSTV and expect it working, because that's not going to happen. Get a Vita that's 3.57 or lower. If you really want this, go ahead. It's a little bit finicky, so it'll take some practice to get it working right. And for what it's worth, its concept is okay, but I feel it could be done a tiny bit better on the software end of things, but it's doing what it says it can, and I think that's what matters most here. And as a small side note, I noticed on the card, since it is a little bit bigger in every way, if we put it in the Slim here, you can't actually close the top part because there's a little gap here. There's a little gap here for the card, and if you can take a look there, the card for the Blackfin is just a tiny bit bigger than that hole, so pushing down on it will eject it. So if you wanted to use a Vita for this, use the fat model because it does not have the same problem. Oh, don't drop your test kit, boys. Don't do it. And thanks, I guess. Hopefully this was informative, but this was my first run with just trying to figure this out on my own, and I feel it was easy once you get the hang of it, but at first it may be a little bit troublesome.